Predators and prey exist in a delicate balance, intricately woven into the larger fabric of their ecosystems. While we often think of a single predator and its prey locked in a dynamic struggle for survival, in reality, it's a more complex story. In natural systems, predators and prey don't operate in isolation. They're embedded within sprawling food webs, each species' actions influencing and responding to countless others. These interactions create layers of complexity that shape population dynamics and ecosystem stability in profound ways. In this video, we'll take a look at ways that multiple predator species can impact prey. And we'll explore some of the more complex ways that predators can impact prey beyond simply eating them. When multiple predator species share the same environment, their collective influence on prey isn't necessarily as simple as the sum of all of their individual impacts. I mean, sometimes that's the case. In that situation, we would say that the predators have an additive interaction on one another. There are other times where predators can interfere with one another, so their collective impact is less than the sum of their individual impacts. In that case, we would say that they have an antagonistic interaction with each other. There are still other times that their combined impact on prey is actually greater than the sum of their individual predatory pressures. We would call that a synergistic interaction. Let's take a look at a few examples of each. First, an additive interaction between predators. In some oldfield habitats, the grasshopper Melanoplus ferubrum is preyed upon by three dominant hunting spider species. There's the nursery web spider, the jumping spider, and the wolf spider. Each spider species occupies a distinct microhabitat. The nursery web spider forages in the upper canopy. The jumping spider predominantly forages in the middle canopy. The wolf spider predominantly forages in the lower canopy. This vertical partitioning of habitats means that grasshoppers face predation risk from only one spider species at a time, depending on their location. As a result, these spiders act independently, and the overall impact of all three spiders on grasshopper mortality can be accurately predicted by summing the effects of each individual species. Next up, let's take a look at antagonistic interactions between predators. There are actually lots of ways that predators can interfere with one another. Two of the key ways are through physical confrontation and through avoidance. For example, one predator could actually prey on another predator. This is called intraguild predation. For example, lacewing larvae. They prey on cotton aphids. But if there are certain species of heteropteran bugs present, those will actually go after the lacewings, which relieves the predatory pressure on the cotton aphids. I mean, the heteropterans will also eat cotton aphids, they just tend to like lacewings better. So that's physical predation pressure. When it comes to avoidance, you can have things like predatory hunting spiders that will often avoid areas where there's a prevalence of mantises. Scissor beats paper, paper beats rock, mantises beat predatory spiders. So in order to avoid those confrontations, the spiders just, well, go elsewhere if possible. Along these lines, there are also instances of predators leaving chemical trails that serve to warn competing predator species of their presence. For example, coccinella beetles can act as intraguild predators. They have glands that leave behind a residue that's rich in volatile compounds, which serves to ward off competing predators, like insect parasitoids and certain mite species. These volatiles can also be in their excrement. Volatile chemicals, those are just chemicals that evaporate easily into the air. So by steering clear of these areas, the parasitoids and the mites reduce their risk of encountering these beetles. This is essentially a form of avoidance. Last but not least, let's take a look at synergistic interactions between predators. Here you have examples like the dilemma of the mayflies, Ephemerella subvaria, in stream ecosystems. In order to escape predatory stoneflies, the mayflies leave their refuge under stream bed rocks where stoneflies like to hang out. However, This escape behavior increases their vulnerability to fish, which have no issues snapping up exposed mayflies. So the mayflies then head for cover under the rocks, where the stoneflies are, and you're back to square one. You get the idea. The pressures from these two predators leaves no effective spatial refuge for the mayflies, and their combined impact on the mayflies ends up being greater than the sum of each predator working independently. This example highlights another way that predators can impact prey, something that we call non-consumptive impacts. Let me give you a few examples. First, you have grasshoppers exposed to non-lethal spiders. In experiments using experimentally defanged spiders, even though the spiders can't kill the grasshoppers will shift their behavior and avoid nutrient-rich grasses, where spiders like to hang out, to nutrient-poor forbs, where there are fewer spiders. This lessens their predation risk. In some circumstances, this can even lead to starvation-related mortality. So just the mere presence of a predator can drastically alter prey survival by forcing prey into a costly trade-off to either risk predation or risk starvation. You see something similar with certain species of aphid when they're threatened by predators. Some aphids will drop off their host plant as an escape response. Seems like a reasonable way to escape, but this then makes them vulnerable to ground foraging beetles. And even when they don't encounter other predators, it reduces their feeding time and their access to high-quality food sources. So again, predators can induce behavioral changes in prey without even touching them. And we've already talked about the example of the mayflies. Well, there's actually thousands of different mayfly species. Some of these mayflies use that drift dispersal strategy, which can be quite costly as they abandon their old habitats to escape stonefly predation, making themselves vulnerable to other predators. There are other mayfly species, however, that have strong morphological defenses, like protective spines. And some of these species don't show that escaping behavior. They've made a different trade-off. Some of their development energy and resources has gone to morphological defense, which can be costly in its own right. Predators can have lots of different impacts on prey. Direct and indirect. Consumptive and non-consumptive. Predators can also have impacts on other predators, which then can have varying effects on the prey. In the next video of this series, we'll take a look at an example of coevolution, where the interplay of predators and prey has ended up having widespread and large-scale consequences, not just for the species involved, but for entire ecosystems. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.